Hi, welcome back to the Sandy Trail. You're probably wondering, okay, why Joanna looks so giddy right now. Today, April 19, this morning was a morning that I did not expect. I've been looking for a new job and I got an offer right on the spot in the last round of interview this morning and I accepted it. The downside of the new job is that I won't be home anymore. I will be going back into the office, so that will take away time from doing these reviews and investing my time in my YouTube channel, but I will make it work. So there might be a delay in the remaining episodes reviews for season 3. I can totally get episode 2 and 3 done before the middle of May, and we probably jump on episode 4 and probably finish the 2 episodes sometime in June after I adjust to my new job. I'm so excited for this new job. It's something that I've been waiting on for like the past year. I wanted to find something new, something to grow, something that exciting, get me advance in my career path. Really excited and I'm really grateful, thankful to God. So that's my life update at the moment. I usually don't share a lot of my personal stuff, but with that, you know, it will affect the Sandy Trail just a little bit. But we will definitely continue to episode 2 review in this video, the next 15 minutes. And then after this would be the last 2 parts, which is, I think, will be the last 20 minutes of the episode. So we should continue on. Let's get started. So we stop at the moment when Alexander met up with his brother in London. Samuel is older than Alexander, right? Maybe I need to watch it again. Did they ever say that in season 3? Let me know. If you know, tell me. And then the next scene is Georgiana writing out, looks like a letter, probably a statement that she is writing to represent herself in front of the court against Mr. Lockhart.
I believe condolences are in order.
Condolences?
Your husband?
Oh, my husband died 20 years ago, and I've never seen the point of dwelling in the past.
Forgive me for my voice. I've been fighting a cold. There's like so many things going on all at once in my life, so apologize for my voice. We're gonna dive into this conversation between Lady Denham and Mr. Price. We get to hear more about who they are to each other, right? Like, we still don't know what happened in the past. Interesting enough, Mr. Price was nice to send his condolences to Lady Denham about the passing of her husband. And you know how Lady Denham is, she is very independent, she can manage a single life, like, really well, and she's just like, yeah, like, that 20 years ago, I'm fine by myself, like, I'm, like, rocking this single life, I don't need a man, right? She doesn't stay in the past, she's just enjoying this moment where she had money, she had a big house to live in, and she doesn't need to worry about loving a man at the moment. All she needs to hear about is herself. Well, unfortunately, Edward at the moment.
Neither have I. I only look to the future, which is why the Sanditon Hotel is such an exciting prospect.
Exciting for whom? We hardly need the kind of visitor who would stay at a guest house.
What an easy transition, right? For Mr. Price talking about Lady Denham, husband, death, and then mentioning about looking to the future, and he just like dropped in that topic about the Sanditon Hotel. But Lady Denham still has some stand against this hotel. She really doesn't want to build a hotel. The question is it because she doesn't want to work with Mr. Price? If it was a different man that she didn't know, she might be a little bit more inclined to the idea of building a new hotel.
You are absolutely right, my lady. But what if we were to make it a grand hotel?
You're all talk and hollow promises. You always were.
That seems hardly fair.
Mr. Price is trying to stand for himself and Tom Parker to get this hotel start building and to make it happen. And Lady Denham is the obstacle that holding both of these men from building this new hotel. Then she says something that is a little bit interesting. She mentioned about how Mr. Price is not only in business but in personal life, and the conversation get a little bit more personal between these two.
Have you forgotten? Because I certainly haven't.
It was over half a century ago. We were young then and foolish.
He made a mistake, or he did something that did not satisfy the desires of Lady Denham. So it sounded like she really wanted to be with Mr. Price when they were young in love, but they didn't have the opportunity to be together and get married. So she still has some grudges against him, personal grudges against him, and with that colliding with the business talk, it's not really a good idea. So it's at the same time, it's like there's a chance for them to settle their past if they want to go that way, which they should, because getting into a business partnership, you don't want to have any grudges or any bad vibes with each other.
Can't you see the picture? A magnificent facade, rows of luxurious suites overlooking the sea. We could charge a king's ransom.
You were always driven by greed.
He really wanted the hotel, and she kept talking bad about him, and she mentioned about him being greed. So, to the audience, to the viewers, like, okay, so if he is greedy in business, is he greedy in real life, in personal life as well?
That's why you passed me over for that dreadful Jane Clifford with her 50,000.
Just one moment. I recall it was you who passed me over.
That's the answer. She was in love with Mr. Price when they were young, and he, according to her, he picked the other woman, kind of like the Bachelor show. Not that I watched it. Two ladies competing for Mr. Price back in those days, right? And Lady Denham really wanted to be with him, but he picked the other lady. So of course that broke her heart, and that reminded me of that moment in season 2. I forgot which episode. Lady Denham told Esther about this love that she had, and she was heartbroken because the guy picked a woman that had more money. And I was wondering if that story was this story that's happening in season 3 in the very moment of this episode. So Lady Denham still not over that grudge, that unforgiveness that she had toward Mr. Price.
Balderdash.
Yes, I remember it still. The blinding sunlight streaming through the stained glass as I stood there waiting for you to arrive.
It was pouring with rain.
Okay, so they were very close to getting married back in those days, and according to him, she was the one that never showed up to the altar, who basically ditched him. So they're like contrasting perspective here on what happened between them in the past, and they're blaming on each other instead of one of them being honest. Instead they just like, no, you did it, not me. So this is a very interesting, and I think it's entertaining to hear this, because Lady Denham, she was always like this independent, this fierce woman that don't need a man, but we get to see this like vulnerable this other side of her that we really didn't get to see much in season 1 and 2 when it comes to like her love life. She mentioned a little bit when Charlotte was introduced to her in the first episode of season 1, but we didn't really like dive into that side of her until that season 2 episode when she told Esther about this love that she had, and she got her heart broken by this man, and now we get to meet Mr. Price, and it sounded like he was like the love of her life, and now she technically getting a second chance with him in this season.
And I was the one who was left waiting.
Abject nonsense, my dear lady. Your memory is deceiving you.
With hindsight, maybe it was a lucky escape.
Sunlight, rain. So one of them is right, one of them is wrong. But then again, in sense that unforgiveness that she had toward him, she definitely did not move on from him completely, because if she did forgive him, right, she wouldn't be holding grudges right now in this scene.
Very well, I shall go and build my grand hotel elsewhere.
No, you certainly won't. You'll build it right here, on the seafront.
Well, I'm not sure if Lady Denham meant that when she said that it was for the best when they couldn't be together back in those days. She mentioned, being a lucky escape, that she was the one that got away, like it was the best decision. But we'll see. We'll see if the sparks, the romance rekindle between these two in season 3. But what a twist of event in this conversation. Like at first she's like, I don't want to work with you, but then at the end of the conversation she's just like, yeah, why not, let's build a hotel on the seafront. And Mr. Price like, yeah, like I still got my game on, like I convinced her and she agreed with me. I think she can put it aside. She's probably thinking like, okay, this would be great for the town of Sanditon, like the business side, I think she can put up with him for that. But the personal side of this relationship, I wish she would be open up to that, to have a friendship with him again and to maybe have a second chance at love with him.
And I shall want a large share of the profits.
You always were a stubborn, shrewd young woman.
Yes, well, now I'm a stubborn, shrewd old woman.
She all about money. She all about that business talk. So she definitely want to have a major percentage of the profits to her. She's not a stupid woman when it comes to business talk and money and investment. She's very wise, and the time and money that she invests in, and she's very interested in the hotel, so that's a good news for Mr. Price and Tom Parker, this three-way relationship, this triangle relationship, and I think it will be a good addition to the town.
Show Mr. Price out, please.
I love this conversation because we get to know a little bit more about Lady Denham's past and her relationship with Mr. Price, and he mentioned about like how she always this stubborn, shrewd young woman. So it shows to us that he remembers her very well and how she was back in those days, and I'm sure that he remembers her beauty and the moments that they had in the past. And she replied back to him like, oh yeah, now I'm an old woman. And the same woman but older version of Lady Denham, and she wasn't shy to show that. She's like, this is who I am, I'm still the same Lady Denham whether you like me or not. And Mr. Price seemed to be that man that can be patient with her, that can put up with her. Lady Denham is a tough woman sometimes. So I think a man that need to have patience and that can deal with her personality, I think that can work out for her. And I think Mr. Price knows how to get her to do something that he wants her to do. And he did in this conversation with the hotel. The Colbourne brothers are arriving in Sanditon, and again, I really like this new character, Samuel. It's a really great addition to season 3. Having him on the show in season 3, it's expanded the horizon for Alexander Colbourne. We get to see more of his family side and figure out if he is close to his brother, like the type of relationship that he has with his brother.
Mr. Samuel.
Mrs. Wheatley. You look exceedingly well.
A few more grey hairs, Mr. Samuel, but that aside, I am well.
It has been 10 years, right? But a little note, Mr. Whitley already met Samuel in the past, so they do know each other. Just a little note about Samuel. His personality, I think, is different from Alexander. In season 3, we would get to see that difference in their personalities, and I think it's funny and interesting at the same time. Like, who is Alexander? Who is Samuel? And both of these men, they will navigate through their own storyline in season 3.
I'm afraid I haven't prepared a room.
My apologies for the lack of warning. If you could prepare the guest room.
Of course. I'll see to it now.
Thank you. We'll go to Sanditon as soon as you've settled.
Even though Mr. Whitley is a beloved member of the family, she still has that job that she takes very seriously in maintaining the household. So she was like, oh man, like my boss, like, you know, he didn't tell me, like I didn't prepare a room for Samuel. But Alexander is a nice boss. He gives her the grace and the time to prepare a room for Samuel, and when it's ready, and he can settle in.
On guard. Do we know you?
No, but I know you. Corporal Colbourne, I presume.
My question is if Samuel met Leonore when she was a baby, but it sounds like this is the first time she is meeting her uncle Samuel.
Major Colbourne to you.
Major Colbourne?
You still haven't told us who you are.
I'm your infamous Uncle Samuel.
What's infamous?
Augusta and Leonora never met the Uncle Samuel, so that speaks a story to us. Like, he's not close to the family, he's been living in London, probably for the most of his life, that single life, just doing whatever he wants to do. He is a lawyer, and he's just living his own life, and he doesn't seem to visit his family members that much. So Augusta and Leonora, this is exciting for them. Like, they didn't know there was an Uncle Samuel in the family, and now here he is in Sanditon.
It is the same as famous, only better.
Technically, that's the wrong definition of infamous, but we just go along with it. I thought Augusta was gonna tell Leonora the definition of that word, but she let her uncle slide and continued the conversation. But another thing we learned about Samuel in this conversation, he seemed to be really good with kids, so like that's a good thing. And he seemed to be single, no girlfriend, so if he does want to settle down, just saying, like, he would be a good father. I'm just throwing it out there. But there's a nice introduction of Samuel to the family, to the household. Leonora seemed to like him right away. That house is big, and it's always been the staff, Mr. Whitley, Alexander, Leonora, and Augusta, and having Uncle Samuel over to the house as a visitor, it brightened up the house a little bit, you know, make it a little bit more alive.
Mr. Lockhart wrongfully claims that he is the rightful sole heir to the late Mr. Lamb's fortune. Mr. Lockhart's entire claim is a fiction and an outrage.
Earlier, we saw Georgiana writing, looks like a letter, but it's actually her statement that she will speak on her behalf herself in front of the court. And it's nice to have Mary and Charlotte there as support and to help her and guide her and making sure that her statement is strong and truthful, and hopefully it will convince the judge to hear her side of the story, hear her case, and give her a chance.
An insult to a dying man's final wish.
Oh, my dear. Do you wish to stop?
Aside from her practicing reading out loud her statement, that moment when she stumbled on her words and had that moment to stop, and that struggle of saying that line, a man dying wish, talking about her father, it just showed not only she had beautiful strength to go through this situation with Mr. Lockhart, but it also shows the struggle that she had been dealing with for years. Like, finally she is at the age and she's supposed to have everything from her father, and now everything is trying to be taken away from her by Mr. Lockhart. And having this situation is time-consuming, something that she didn't want, something that she didn't want to deal with, but she has to. She had to fight. She is fighting for her life, basically, in this situation with Mr. Lockhart. And hopefully this is the last of it.
Why is this man to be believed over a woman of integrity? Is it because he's a white man? If so, how is this justice?
It's interesting though, we get to hear Georgiana read out loud her statement, and if you listen carefully, you get to see the details that she provides in the statement. And that last question, the last line that she said out loud about Mr. Lockhart being a white man and she is a colored woman, and this is not only about the money, it's also about the injustice in the whole system, and the fact that the judge gonna favor Mr. Lockhart over her because he's a white man. So she pulling up all the defenses that she can think of and build up against Mr. Lockhart, and try to convince the judge, like, hey, like, this is wrong, like, you shouldn't be in favor on one side, like, you should hear his side and my side too, like, you have to hear me out, like, I'm not trying to take advantage of my father, of his money, like, he truthfully and rightfully gave those money to his daughter, to Georgiana.
Mr. Colbourne?
My apologies for this intrusion, but I think when you know the purpose of our visit, you will understand.
Miss Lamb, I heartily agree with the sentiments.
What I love about Alexander is that he doesn't waste any time. He's like, you settle into the house, brother, and once you settle, we're going into Sanditon, to the Parker house, and for Samuel to meet Georgiana properly. And here we are in this scene, and I was thinking, like, the first time I watched this scene, I was like, yay, another scene where Charlotte and Alexander are in the same room.
And who might you be?
Samuel Colbourne, your new lawyer.
I have not instructed you.
Not yet, but my brother has informed me of the difficulties that you're having.
Georgiana, Mary, and Charlotte, they didn't expect these two men to show up unannounced. They're like, what are they doing here, right? So Georgiana was very straightforward, like, who are you? In the moment that Samuel introduced himself, Alexander and Charlotte look at each other, and Charlotte gave him that look, like, okay, your brother, he's a lawyer? Like, what's going on? Like, how do you two know about Georgiana's situation, right? And this whole plan that Alexander has is he never expected anything in return. He wanted to help. He support Georgiana, and he support her beliefs, her vision, who she is as a woman, and what she stands for. And the way that he hears about Charlotte and how he supports her and support her friends and the people that she loves, like, he's willing to do anything for Charlotte people in her life, you know what I mean? So he willing to help in any way that he can, and he thought of his brother, and he made that journey to London to get his brother and to immediately start on this case and have him introduce himself to Georgiana as her new lawyer. possibly as a new lawyer. She hasn't even hired him yet. So there's a grand gesture that Alexander is doing, and he didn't want them to find out that he overheard the conversation, Georgiana and Charlotte, about the struggle of finding a new lawyer for Georgiana.
As soon as I heard of your plight, Miss Lamb, it struck me there would be no one better.
Are you aware that Lord Cornforth will be hearing Georgiana's case? A man quite outspoken in his views on abolition. He will not be sympathetic.
So, of course, Alexander doesn't want the attention on him, the fact that he overheard, eavesdropped Georgiana's conversation with Charlotte about finding a new lawyer. Mary stepped in. She's like, "Are you sure you want to represent Georgiana? Like, this is a really nice offer, but this judge, like, it's really, really tough, and they have to work hard together to win this case."
Cornforth has no right to sit in judgment. The law should be handed out without fear or favour.
I hope this sentiment is a true one, Mr. Colbourne. I'm not a plaything for your amusement.
Picking a lawyer and having a lawyer are like two different things. Like, we have an option, Samuel, that's great, we have a lawyer. But the next thing is that worry Georgiana is like, is Samuel willing to represent her? Because she needs a lawyer that will support her and that will not take advantage of her, that will protect her, like defend her, represent her really well to the very end of this court case. Someone that will be strong and someone that will be very firm in her beliefs and who she is as a colored woman. So that would be a challenge for Samuel. She just want to make sure that her relationship with the lawyer that she end up with would be a great lawyer and that will help her to win it all.
I can assure you, if I represent you, it will be because I believe you can and should win.
Well, we'll see about that. Samuel, Georgiana looked over to Charlotte, and Charlotte gave her that look like, it seemed fine with me, like, it's all up to you, Georgiana. You are the final decision maker in the decision whether Samuel should be her lawyer or not.
Very well. Show me what you can do. Then I will decide.
As you wish. Come to Herrick Park at 3. We'll talk more.
Samuel seemed to be confident. That's a good sign. He seemed very interested, really want to help her. So that's another good sign. So we'll see how this meeting goes back at the Heybourne Park. It's interesting though how this conversation will continue at the Heybourne Park, not the Parker House, because, you know, Charlotte, she might be going back to the Heybourne Park to support Georgiana in having that meeting with Samuel once again. So we'll see how that goes. Finally, you know, she finds a lawyer thanks to Alexander. She really needs one, because if not, she cannot represent herself. I don't think she heard back in those days, and it wouldn't look good without a lawyer. I think Charlotte gave like a little nod to Alexander. She appreciated what he did. So that's a good sign. But the look on her face though, like, I think because of how this conversation will continue back at his house, I think he was dreading a little bit about the fact that possibility that Charlotte might visit his house again and that they will run into each other again. I think he's still struggling at the fact that she is engaged to another man, and he's just trying to have that boundary line between the two. Like, he doesn't want to overstep, doesn't want to invade her relationship with Val because they are engaged, but at the same time, he being a really nice man and helping Georgiana and getting his brother from London to come to Sanditon and help Georgiana with her case. So there is a way for him to get Charlotte back. But for now, I think he's just playing it carefully. But in all honesty, he's doing this from the kindness of his heart, and he knows that by doing so, he might run into Charlotte a few more times.
Miss Markham.
Not him again.
Another lucky encounter, Sir Edward.
There's a lot of good scenes in the second part segment, so I think we will talk more this time around. We haven't really hear the dialogue, hear the conversation yet between Augusta and Edward in the past, but this scene, I will pull it up. Leonora, she seemed to know what's going on, and she's doesn't support this relationship between her husband and Edward right off the bat. She probably heard bad things about Edward already. Edward is not giving up, and keep in mind his number one goal in this chasing game that he's doing with Augusta is to go after her money. So he's gonna unfortunately try to get Augusta to fall for him so he can get her money in a marriage.
I admit, I intended to call on you.
With what purpose? To deliver your poem, perhaps?
Rather to apologise for the lack of one. It was the worst thing ever written, just as you predicted.
You can see I don't know what to call it. You know how a guy flirt with a woman? You can tell when a guy try to be sneaky, flirty, try to get into your way, try to annoy you, but at the same time he just want your attention and have a conversation with you. So he being a little bit flirty, a little bit yeah, I admit I came to you because I want to talk to you. In Augusta, she still have that guard up, and I'm hoping she does, because if she let her guard down, he would take advantage of her and she would get her.
Then you have no need for my opinion.
Oh, but I do. On all things, I think there's much you could teach me.
Can I ask you something, Sir Edward?
Anything.
Do you think me a fool?
He was honest on the poem part, but then he tried to convince her that they should continue this relationship and talk more to each other. Basically, he's not giving in, he's not giving up on her. At the same time, she's just trying to figure him out. Okay, why all of a sudden you give me attention? Why are you visiting me a lot? Why do we talk to each other now? What is your intention? What is your purpose behind all of these conversations that we have?
What?
You expect me to believe that this sudden change in sentiment towards me is genuine? Did it not occur the very moment that you discovered I'm due to an inheritance? So I ask you again.
I like this part. She basically putting him in his spot. She still have her guard up. If I was her, I would be very careful around this man. I would have quit on him after the first encounter. But this is the second, third encounter that they have with each other. So she really need to be on her 2 feet and protect herself at all costs. Protect her heart. So at first she doing the right thing, and when I watched it for the first time, I'm please don't fall for him. Please don't.
Do you think me a fool?
No, I do not.
Then please desist from this false and rather piteous flattery.
Piteous?
Yes, it means deserving of pity.
She knew what was up. She's okay, we never talked before. Now all of a sudden you come to me. You know I'm single, I'm looking for a man, and I am at the age where I am becoming a suitable woman to be a wife to a man very soon, in the near future. So she letting him know, don't take advantage of her and her money. And I like that. I like that boldness, that girl power that she has in her right now in this scene. And of course, we know that Edward can be very manipulative. He can easily persuade someone to easily convince them to trust him. And that's the one thing that I'm afraid for Augusta.
Good day, Sir Edward. Leonora, we must hurry home before your father returns.
Miss Markham. Miss Colbourne.
That's another moment of her putting him in his spot, talking about his flattery and the way that he's trying to get her attention. It's like, don't give me the crap. Like, be honest to yourself and be honest to other people and to her, especially her. So she's not playing around, and I think that flattered Edward in return. He's like, oh, okay, so this girl knows what she wants. She knows that she is worthy of a good love, of a true love. But again, like, he's the type of man that will get anything that he wants, like, in any possible way that he can. And he all about the money, any woman that has money, and he's chasing after Augusta because of her money. So there's a chance for him to make it right with her and, be a good man, or it could be an opportunity for him to still be a bad man and take advantage of her and try to get her to marry him and give that control, that access to her money. Mrs. Colbourne, Alexander would not approve this relationship. That's another thing I was thinking. I'm like, your uncle would not let this happen, like, at all. So there's like no chance in hell that Augusta can be with Edward, because of the bad reputation that he has in public and in his personal life. Like, no woman wants to be with Edward unless she is very stupid, and we don't want Augusta to be very stupid and fall for him. So that's the other thing. And then that look that they exchanged at the very end of the scene, it was that, that look like, I might like you. We'll see how this goes, And I'm just like, no, Augusta, like, don't give him a chance. The next scene I will put up on the side is Mr. and Miss Hankins. Miss Hankins, she gets this new friend in the Dr. Fierce, and he's away in London, and her brother received the mail from London, and she's like, oh, that could be the doctor, and she didn't really want to say it in front of her brother because she knows that her brother is not too keen in the doctor, but the doctor is all about team science, and Mr. Hankins is all about team faith in God, religion versus science. And she doesn't want to get into that situation, be that monkey in the middle between these two men. But it seems that she is open to the idea of finding love, and she might see that with this doctor. She might get married to him in the future. And it's really sad that this show is ending after season 3, so we might not be able to find out if she does end up with the doctor in marriage, But it's funny how she tried to hide this relationship with the doctor from her brother. But down the road, I think it will become really important for her that her brother will need to like the doctor, Like, there will be brother-in-laws. It's important to have that family approval as well,
Dear Miss Hankins, yesterday I was given the opportunity to listen to a young man's beating heart through a simple wooden tube. It was clear as day.
It's nice to hear Dr. Fuchs' voice from his letter. You can feel his emotion, his excitement to share this new discovery with Miss Hankins. It's nice that they keep in touch, and it shows that he is interested in her as a friend as well.
And I cannot wait to share this discovery with you.
Back in those days, most of them were like farmers, and technology took a while to come into the picture, and there were a lot of advancement and improvement and new ways of living. And we get to hear one of those, like in this letter, like listening to the heartbeat of a patient, and that was like a huge discovery, a huge invention, a huge way to learn about a person's heart. So that was a pretty cool historical piece to this letter, but at the same time, you can sense that he really excited to see her again and talk about it and continue the friendship. And the look on her face, she just like realizing like, wow, like this is getting serious. Like, you know, we communicate a lot, we getting to know each other a bit better. She's very interested in his job, who he is as a person, and I think this is the moment she realized that she has a crush on the doctor. The next scene is when Arthur received a letter actually from the king, and this is one of the twists in season 3, the change of events in season 3, and it's a letter that changes everything in a bad way for Augusta, unfortunately. So the word regretfully popped up to my attention in that letter. So it sounded like that he might not be coming, and the look on Arthur's face, he didn't seem too happy about it. So it's really sad if Dr. Hayes, right? He's been working so hard for the arrival of the king, and a letter comes to him saying that the king is not coming to Sanditon.
I hear the king has a new favourite. A younger favourite. It's the talk of the London drawing rooms. Poor Lady de Clermont.
Remember when the first episode, Lady Susan introduced Charlotte to Lady Monrose and her two heirs in the promenade area in the first episode of season 3. I picked up that vibe, like they know each other, like, you know, they probably know about each other, about something in the past. And now we have this scene and we find out that Lady Susan is, or was, one of the mistress, like one of those secret relationships. So that's like a major news. Like we didn't know that until now. And now Lady Susan is single again. She's not the girlfriend of the king anymore. And it's a hot topic, a hot gossip going around in London, and Lady Monrose is knowing about this, like in Sanditon. And if she gossiped to other women in Sanditon, like that's not gonna be good, you know? Like, is she a gossiper? You know, like she knows a lot of secret things going around in Sanditon and in London apparently. So that's not good, you know? You don't want people to gossip about you, especially like secret personal things about your life, you know what I mean? So that's not good.
To be cast aside, like an old shoe.
Lady de Clermont, may I? It is a matter of great urgency.
The way that Lady Monroe talked about Lady Susan, I think it's just not right. I pick up the vibe, like, you know, Lady Monroe's like, oh, like, you know, her family like had like a scandal and it forced them to escape, leave Bath and move to Sanditon. And, you know, it's not a good feeling when you have like a bad gossip going around about your family. And now like the hot topic is about Lady Susan, so it's kind of like driving the attention away from her family scandal and putting it on Lady Susan. So in a way, like she's like making fun of Lady Susan, the way she talks about her to her kids, and it's just not a nice thing to say.
See,
of course.
It is terrible news, is it not?
What is?
So Arthur is about to tell Lady Susan about the unfortunate news about the king not arriving to Sanditon, and she's like the only one that is very excited for Arthur. Like she asked him earlier, like, oh, how is the planning going? And she gave him some advice on the type of music, the entertainer that she should invite over for the king arrival to town.
The king has changed his mind. He is no longer coming to the recital.
Oh, yes, that. I had heard.
This is a major breakup for her. I mean, dating a king is like dating a celebrity, you know? And she's in Sanditon and he's in London, and he's supposed to meet her in Sanditon and continue the relationship, but apparently they broke up, like, you know, towns away, you know? Like, it's not like they broke up in person. So that made it even tougher for her, and she's feeling that heartbroken feeling. And she showed that. She showed the emotion. She started to like get teary a little bit, and she really didn't want to talk about it. And she like looked over to the next table, probably in the direction of the Monroe family, that she doesn't want anyone to hear about this relationship she had with the king. So to me, like, maybe she was like one of those mistress or that secret affair. Let me know what you think, because we didn't really get deep into the relationship that she had with the king, but it was something that she really, really liked, and she broke her heart. So she is definitely a single lady again, and she definitely in that process of moving on from this relationship.
My condolences, Mr. Parker. I imagine he has found another form of entertainment to please him more.
It sounds like Arthur doesn't know what happened between Lady Susan and the king. And the way that she said that the king found another better entertainment, to me, I felt like it was like a two definition. Like she also meant like, oh, he found a better woman to have love with.
You must help me. Lady de Clermont, you're the only one who can.
I'm afraid in this regard, I no longer have the king's ear. I am sorry.
So she definitely heartbroken, and Arthur, like, you know, she probably thinking like she has so many connections that she can maybe convince the king to change his mind or whatnot, but he doesn't know what actually happened in private between Lady Susan and the king.
Truly I am. But there is nothing to be done.
There had to be reason, right? And I assume that the king doesn't want to go to Sanditon because he doesn't want to run into Lady Susan, and she must have told the king that she is visiting Sanditon, so he's basically avoiding her. So yeah, that even makes the situation even worse, and Arthur has like no idea. She doesn't want to talk to the king. He broke her heart. She doesn't want to deal with him, and I don't blame her. So this is a tough situation for Arthur himself too. Like, should he handle the whole thing? Should he try to do what he can with what he have? Next scene with the continuation of the planning of Sanditon Hotel. Mr. Price is all about business, all about money, all about the king. Like, hey, we have the king coming tonight. This is our chance. Like, we need to market Sanditon to be like the best seaside town, and we must tell him about this new hotel and that he need to come back and stay longer in Sanditon in the new future hotel that we have in town. But there's a little glitch. Tom has some concern. He's like, wait, are we picking this location for the hotel where it will knock out all these fishermen? Like, this is where they live? Like, where they gonna live, right? Like, we cannot kick them out of their houses and make them even more poor. Like, they need a house, like they need a home. So there must be like another location where it doesn't intervene with other people's life and livestock and lifestyle. Like, we don't want to disturb the true heart, the real people of Sanditon.
Mr. Parker? Anything amiss? I cannot help but notice you're not your usual ebullient self.
There is nothing amiss what would give you that impression.
Harry is a nice guy. If you get to know him, he's not that bad, right? And he's just checking on Arthur in this scene. And I'm sorry, Arthur, like, the look on your face, like, there's something wrong going on with you.
Judging from your demeanour, I would deduce that whatever's happened is something of a catastrophe. Given that you informed Lady de Clermont of the matter, I would also deduce it has something to do with the king.
Thanks to Harry's mom, Harry has some background information of what might be bothering Arthur in this very moment. You know, this is something that Arthur is a bit ashamed to talk about. Like, he worked so hard, and now the king is not coming. Like, what he gonna do? You know, it's a major event, and everyone is counting on him to make this happen.
Rumours he has taken a new mistress, perhaps?
Oh, poor Lady de Clermont.
So that means Arthur didn't know that Lady Susan was in a relationship with the king, and Arthur now feels bad that he tried to pressure Lady Susan to talk to the king or to help Arthur resolve the situation. To convince the king to come at another time possibly, but Lady Susan didn't want to because she didn't want to talk to the king. Like, you know, who wouldn't want to talk to an ex-boyfriend? Like, no one does.
It pains me to say, but yes, the king will not be coming to Sanditon today or any other day.
And back in those days, like, we didn't have cell phone, we didn't have, like, faster postal service, you know, it takes time. So finding that out, that the king is not arriving on the day of when he should be, like, it's just like he did all of that for nothing, basically.
But you have worked tirelessly, and it must be distressing to see your efforts go to waste.
It is worse than distressing. When Miss Greenhorn finds out, she'll refuse to perform.
So if the king doesn't come and the entertainer doesn't come either, that'll be like a double humiliation for Arthur and his family, especially Tom Parker. Like I said, everyone is counting on the Parker family to have this event happen today, right now, and it is not going accordingly to the plan.
I will be a laughing stock. My brother will be humiliated, not to mention exceedingly out of pocket.
Come now, there will be a solution.
I think not.
Arthur is being very stressed and sad about it, and Harry trying to comfort him, support him, and try to come up like with another solution. Arthur is just like done with it. Like, he's like, there's a major fail, like what's the point of trying to fix it?
I think so. Why does Miss Greenhorn have to know the king isn't coming?
It'll be somewhat impossible to keep it from her when she is serenading an empty throne.
Worry not.
Arthur is like realistic. Harry is like doesn't really care. Like, we can do this. Like, let's try this crazy plan that I came up with.
She's an American with an artistic disposition. We shall just dazzle her with pomp.
He made a good point, but at the same time, it kind of like, to me, like, he's trying to say like, oh, she's dumb, like, she doesn't know like the king. Like, it's kind of like someone foreign coming here, like, oh, they don't know our president. So he just like, he wouldn't even notice, like, he wouldn't even know like which king is which. But I was also thinking, like, someone could have like dressed up as a king, like a fake king, and just sit on the throne, you know, like, she might not know what he looks like, you know. But Arthur doesn't want to take that chance. Like, he doesn't want to make it worse than it already is. And Harry just like, you know, basically, to summarize, Harry's like, you know, just go along with it, just continue, and, you know, just like make it, you know, like, here it is. And then if she had questions about it, like, talk afterward, you know. And we'll see if Augusta decide to follow through and continue this event. But he made a good point. Like, after, like, she gonna notice. And I think the only way that he can move on in this situation is if he be honest with her after she arrived in Sanditon.
I hope you're prepared for what I'm about to ask you, Miss Lamb.
So, this is Charlotte and Georgiana going to Heybourne Park. It's interesting. Well, it's, of course, it's the writer's decision, but in the world of Sanditon, like, it could have been just Georgiana by herself, or it could have been Mary and Georgiana, but in this case, it's Charlotte and Georgiana. And we get to see Alexander and Samuel together at the house. So we know that, of course, there will be another moment of Charlotte and Alexander being in the same room.
It is you who should be prepared, Mr. Colbourne.
Please, come in.
Samuel seemed to be a nice guy, and he seemed to be a confident lawyer, so he's ready to have that discussion with Georgiana. Georgiana is confident and very bold too. So we will get to hear that meeting between the two in the next video. Like, first, Charlotte looked to Alexander before she stepped inside the house, and if you see his look, like, he looked at her like, yep, this is happening again. You can feel it, like, he really still in love with her, but he just in that tug of war, like, oh, like, really want her, but she's engaged to a different man, like, what should I do?
Miss Hayward, I would be grateful if you would wait here, so Miss Lamb and I can become better acquainted.
I'll wait with you.
Thanks to Samuel, Alexander has an opportunity to be with Charlotte for a bit. Samuel doesn't know the story about his brother and Charlotte just yet, but thanks to Samuel, proposal to just have him and Georgiana in the room, Charlotte get to sit down with Alexander in the waiting room. So, I mean, also it's nice for Alexander to do that. Like, he could have just left Charlotte alone by herself, waiting by herself, but he decided to accompany her and maybe to catch up a bit on what's happening lately in their own lives. But I thought it was great, you know, another moment of these two alone, and you can feel like the attraction, like you already feel like the spark, the attraction that's coming alive again whenever they find themselves in a scene. So this is the last scene before we wrap this video up. It's interesting though, like the way they sat down. Like he was like trying to like sit down comfortably. Like he really like lay back and tried to get comfortable. And who knows like how long this meeting would go between Georgiana and Samuel. But the way that Charlotte sat down, it was like ladylike. But it wasn't like as comfortable as like, you know, fully laid back, you know. But you can see like she was like fidgeting her hand, and she looked over to him first, and he didn't even like look at her just yet. But he did look over to him, and the look that she had wasn't like she didn't hate him. I think she just like, I think she's still in awe that he did this for her friend, and I think it touched Charlotte's heart. And at the same time, I think she's still like a little bit like in denial, like in shock that she's still like in the same room as him, like she's still like talking to him, like she's still like running into him. I think she thought that she could avoid him when she went to Georgiana party. Like she was supposed to leave right afterward, but she stayed longer than she expected. I think she wasn't like mad about seeing Alexander again. I think she didn't mind. I think she was like still fond of him. She doesn't hate him, but I think there's like a little part inside of her that question of like, you know, okay, like she's still single, like I still have a chance with him, but she actually stuck in this engagement with Lau, and she had the power to make that decision. She really does, and she needs to make it. She needs to say it. Like she needs to break off her engagement to Ralph to be with Mr. Colbourne. But will she do that? That's the question. Or will it take for Mr. Colbourne to say something, his feeling to her, that will convince her to do so? So we'll see how it goes. If you already watched the episode, you already know what happened. But we will leave it here and pick up the next 10 minutes in the next video, and then the last 10 in the 4th part review for this episode. So we're getting there, and then we will jump to episode 3. Once again, thanks for following along, and I will see you very soon. Bye.